Right Away with Craig Murray. For more information, visit cmurray.com. Death by Ego, a no-mystery murder. Writing's a very odd thing to do. To begin with, you have to have a pretty significant ego to think that the stories you make up in your head are worth a stranger giving you $20 for it. But that's okay. That's what we do. But on the same hand, if you write based on your ego, you're doomed. I couldn't tell you the number of writers I've seen destroy themselves and their writing because of their egos. This can manifest itself in several different ways. You have the ever-popular, well, this is what I want to write. It doesn't matter what the subject is, they're going to write this and they can't be told. This isn't a situation or condition where you're trying to control or change a person's creativity. It's that quite simply there are good stories and there are bad stories. I've met a million beginner writers who can't be told anything. They've asked their mom, they've asked their friends or significant others, and they've all been told they're brilliant, perfect, flawless in their execution. So why listen to some stranger? Mostly because you'll get an honest opinion. A stranger doesn't have to worry about you storming off to your bedroom in a huff and not talking to anyone for 3 days. A stranger can give you honest feedback, useful critical feedback, and now it's up to you whether you listen or not. I knew a person who could write and write well. When they put their mind to it, they could create magnificent and interesting stories. There was, however, a bizarre side to them. They really enjoyed writing completely odd and unlikable main characters. Previously, I've spoken about the importance of having relatable characters, someone the reader can associate with. You can even write a bad or evil main character and they're totally engaging. People want to read them because they're interesting and because they represent our own dark urges. Or, of course, you're waiting for them to get the appropriate comeuppance. You can't just write creepy, unlikable characters that instill such a yuck feeling in the reader, the story is lost. So this person would keep writing short stories with characters like these. Upon review by a group of good critics, they get told these characters are terrible. Everyone has 2 choices to make when you hit these crossroads. The first is to carefully review what you're writing, possibly put your ego aside and see if there's truth in what you're being told. Review the new information, the ideas and feedback you're getting, and then change. The alternative is to screw your ego up into a big giant flaming ball and scream out, "No, everyone else is wrong." You find this in writing or the arts in general, you don't find it in anything else. If you took your car to a mechanic for an oil change and he poured 4 liters of oil into the bottom of your trunk, you'd be quite right in saying, "I think you've done that incorrectly." The other expert mechanics would be quite right in saying, "You've done it incorrectly." There are manuals and books and all sorts of sources that would tell you where the oil's supposed to go. For some writers, though, their only response is, "You don't appreciate my oil pouring ability." Yeah, we do, dude. It just sucks. The need to write, the desire to write, the absolute want to become a rich and famous, well-loved writer can all be part of ego, and that's okay. But your ego should stop at page 1. Inside your story, the only ego to become important are those of your characters. We should see the other characters come alive. You should see their fears and doubts, promise and virtue, and all the other things that make characters great. The last person we should see in the story is the author. If, in my own stories, my hero was always a devilishly good-looking, fantastically charming and intelligent big Scotsman that women adored and men wanted to be like, you'd be quite right in saying, "Craig, your character is amazing and we must love him, but he's almost the same guy." And, you'd be right. No writer should be recreating their own idealized, rightly or wrongly, versions of themselves. We want to read about new, different, exciting people we've never met. Your characters are not you. Get your ego out of your writing. Part of this is respect and love. You should love your characters enough to let them live on their own, have their own personalities and foibles and adventures. They shouldn't just be trips down ego highway, where you tell the world how wonderful this person is, who's totally not you, is being wonderful. Write the opposite sex and write them well. Make their dialogue and actions and everything else suit that person, not just be you in a different outfit. Get your ego out of your writing and let your characters live. Show them the love and respect they deserve. Meeting a person who wants to write an autobiography can be a daunting and perplexing thing. The first question I have to ask is, what have you done? There are those who just want to write fun and private autobiographies more for posterity and their children's sake. There's no intent to ever really publish it. It's really just, look, this is what I did, and I thought you might like to know. They're written primarily in an upbeat way. They may talk about various hardships or things they had to endure, but generally for these people, the feeling is more for their kids to tell them about themselves. Sometimes you might meet a person who's actually done remarkable things, and these things are worth the $20. There are interesting people with interesting tales that could be of interest to a wide range of people. I'm always interested in fascinating people and their lives. The last and sadly most prominent group are those struggling with their egos. They believe what is really absolutely commonplace is somehow special only to them. Their life is somehow astonishingly different than everybody else's. It's very difficult to explain to these people that their life story, as Dave described it, is pretty normal. It's probably not the sort of story anybody who doesn't know you is going to be interested in. That leaves the last segment of this group, and that's what I like to call the revenge autobiography. Generally, they go something like this. When I was growing up, something bad happened. It might be overall insignificant. It might only be a huge issue to the person it happened to, or it might be a familial problem that nobody enjoyed. If it's something really terrible or criminal, that might be interesting, but only if it's really unusual, I'm sad to say. When you talk to these people, you realize they're living in a bit of a fantasy, a very dangerous and ruinous fantasy. They believe that they're going to write their complaints against the family. They imagine the family will read it and immediately throw up their hands in horror and start crying. They'll wail and sob and beg forgiveness for all the wrongdoings the author suffered. Yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Generally, what will happen is the person will write their giant list of grievances. They'll present a self-published book to the family, and they'll be met with abject, indescribable horror. Not that they've done these things, true or not, but this absolute jerk has decided to tell the entire world. Not only will the author not be praised for suffering their hardship, they'll be hated by the entire family for making them look horrible, whether they deserve it or not. Don't do this. It never ends well. This is an ultimate example of ego writing. You're not doing this for the sake of the tale. You're not doing this for the better story you can get out of it. You're doing it for your own self-aggrandizement and ego. It's death by ego. I've sadly seen this done several times, and it never ends well. When we write with ego, we write variations of ourselves. We're always the hero in our own story, and everybody else is a villain. Everybody wants to be praised. Everybody wants to be told how good they are. These things are normal. You'll accomplish this through the quality of your good writing. You'll accomplish this through learning and changing and adapting. You'll learn this by putting your characters first in your story and your ego second by a long way. You can achieve greatness as soon as you stop being positive you're already great. Repeat after me. This story is about my characters. The story is about my characters. This story is about my characters. The story is not about me. Now, as a quick aside, most writers I know are filled with self-doubt. You can be writing, having a wonderful time, knowing the words are flowing like honey and it's really very good, right up until you stop and reread, and then you're filled with existential dread. You hate yourself and everything about you, and your writing is crap, and you're going to go burn your computer. Stop. This is normal. Even when deep down you know what you wrote is pretty good. My easy rule of thumb is this. I have never met a good writer who thinks their writing is any good, but I've met a million bad ones who think their writing is great. You need to have some positive ego. You need to have faith in yourself and listen. Okay, just listen. The fact that you're trying and learning and growing and discarding old habits, you're on your way to being a great writer. So keep going.